I am Buddhism monk. Therefore, Sarasana, I mean, I'm going to take Candido with the I mean, Mashipati, Masichadano, Candido with the Joanna with Chuaina. I don't know. Nambi luggage in China. Nambi Jignala, luggage Jajabi, and Masichadan, Yichisham. He's a truth that is George Care. Didn't you tell you that he's a H jump?
Geshe has been asked to talk about the way to live our lives, from now until we die. So since Geshe was asked, then he says, as an old Buddhist monk, he'll give us some advice about how to live our lives. After all, this is the question that he's been asked.
아니 밑에 대대치 제약 타시지 아니 간지지요 저서 말 줘봐이나 아니 남비주 딱히 라자가 나려야 오늘 소지 맞아 이제 있으다네 또또 알았어 밑에 나려야 지 가서고 노징이 답하셔야 노지게 주셔야 돼 샘부 세준이에 비노네 세준 장인이 말씀 밑에 나려야 아니지 대도 맞대바다 아니지 여자다 중하다 강하도 시보내봐 정이 타마 세주 대인바데 감세버와.
If you were to ask, Geshe, how can we live a good, a happy, a meaningful life? What sort of things can we do to make sure that our lives are these things? And he would respond by saying that actually, in the Buddhist scriptures, there's a great deal of advice on this matter. For instance, we all know that it's negative states of mind that make us fritter our lives away meaninglessly, that create problems for us, make things difficult, and create suffering for us. I mean, we all know that it's negative states of mind that do these things, right? Just to begin with. Whereas positive states of mind help us, make our lives meaningful. They bring happiness to both self and others. They help both self and others. They help us be more easygoing and open-minded. These types of things are created by positive states of mind. Is that something that we could all accept?
Yeah, that's clear. But condition, conditioning 맞잖아. 인지는 맞아. 포지티브 태주야지 다야다. 안 네거티브 태주 마지 가서 그러고 연구체야. 난 너드나? 맞는 못해. 담보지 잡아. 대니 토르래.
Okay, that may well be, but what do we do now? Well, of course, we must now consider how we can increase the positive states of mind and to work to prevent negative states of mind from arising. Do what we can to increase the one and decrease and eventually eliminate the other. Right? Okay. That's what we must consider.
대야지단 포스비 세주 야지 가지지 단지요. 아니 남산지 비가 타신바 세네. 너는 사제 돼야 되는데. 아니 포스비 세주 타신바래. 네게티브 세주 사배 바짝 돈 무슨 바지. 근데 지려고 그래. 잖아. 돈 몇이 잡아요. 아니 다 대 말해 나야. 아니 나도 못해 나야. 지 나가래 와.
So no matter how much you say, mean, this is what it comes back to, is working to try and develop the positive states and to eliminate or reduce the negative states of mind. It all boils down to this. Now, you might ask then, well, okay, but how far can we take this? To what extent can we develop such things? And according to us as Buddhists, that we can develop these states, these positive states of mind, to their utmost extent, at which point we become a Buddha. And at that point also, the negative states of mind no longer remain, nor do their seeds, nor do the imprints that are left behind them. But even if we can't reach this consummate level, it's still, in this very lifetime, we can apply these techniques to make our lives more meaningful and happy, etc.
Okay. 근데 일단 먼저 포지티브 세주 여지다야다 네거티브 세주 아니 연구 제야라 아니 제 고바데 먼저 뇨뇨 폰에 좀 하고요 네거티브 내가 가르치고요 포지티브 세주 내가 가르치고요 같아 먼저 뇨뇨 폰에 하고요 대신 먼저 신기요 네 신기요 봐 있다 진짜 10대 10대 잼비기 쓰고요 그러와
We all know how necessary it is to try and increase positive states of mind and decrease negative states of mind. Drawing upon our own experience, we understand how necessary this is. We understand, we know, we have a wisdom that recognizes the need. What we now have to do is to make sure that this wisdom is supported by mindfulness. We need to remember consistently how important it is that we do these things. We need to work, because given that we know it already, we simply need to remember or remind ourselves of it.
Okay?
So we have 3 mental factors or states of mind we must consider: wisdom, mindfulness, and attentiveness, or vigilance, as it's called.
Oh, that's something. I mean, positive say you are just on balance. Leak Tony condition. Now Tony condition. Saying so, Debbie Tony condition.
In order to develop these positive states of mind, what do we do with our body? What do we do with our speech? How do we use them? What do we do, on a mental level with our mindfulness and so forth? We must consider these 3 levels, mustn't we? In trying to develop these positive states of mind, how do we put these 3 things to work?
Japanese or
So with your body, then you have to kind of kowtow, right? Just kind of bow down with your body, like you see the Japanese and Chinese doing, this kind of thing. You must do this with your body as a way of engendering respect in your mind. Yeah. And then with your speech, you have to say things like "Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum," like a Tibetan. Yeah.
This is easy one.
Okay. Really, the main thing is mind. And we use our body and our speech to support that. Mind needs the support of body and speech. But the main thing is with mind. To develop the positive states of mind, we need the force or strength of mindfulness. mindfulness retains, remembers what wisdom has understood. So mindfulness remembers and reminds us of, the harm that negative states of mind cause, and the way in which positive states of mind help us. So we need to have mindfulness to retain and remember what it is that our wisdom has understood.
Okay.
And therefore, as soon as mindfulness becomes manifest, we need to begin working with it, to sort of cultivate it. I mean, when you're asleep, you're not mindful, are you? Mindfulness is stopped. But when is it then that your mindfulness arises again? It's when you wake up. So from the very moment you wake up in the morning, we need to begin working with our mindfulness.
Okay.
As soon as we wake up in the morning, mindfulness becomes manifest. And that's what marks the beginning of the day. If we can take care from that very moment, then the rest of the day, we have hope that the rest of the day can turn out well also.
Geshe 말하지. 늘 치 전들어서 너나 라만 저거 너 드나스
어레
너는 장에 노원 가르잖아요.
어레
너는 장에 노원 찌샤요. 치근이 뭐 치.
어레
치근이 뭐 또 나이 열레지.
어레
아니 전주 생이니 다시 포스티브 유나 매너더라. 로제테 이든 바시 고마신데 또
어레 It's like it says in Scripture that, in short, no matter what appearances may arise, good or bad, may I rely completely upon this essence of all dharmas or teachings, the mind of enlightenment, which of course is sort of the apex of the positive and negative states, or positive states of mind. It is the best mind. So in short, no matter what appearances may arise, be they good or bad, may I always and constantly rely solely upon this mind of enlightenment, the essence of all dharma, through the development of the five powers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Geshe thought that we have recordings of his teaching on the five powers, five forces. Is that true? Yoresa.
Oh,
This is when we need to direct our efforts. Trying to incorporate the five forces, I suppose we should say, the five forces for as a centerpiece, so to speak, for our daily practice. The first force is known as the force or power of intention.
negative say you control my job or travel, damn the lay and go.
Ore.
The leg take to miss some batching. Roa,
Ore.
there's a good. The other should be Tanaka, positive show. I need to send you a netapoma.
Ore.
But then Shamada, Niji, Roa,
Ore.
or Nijula Soba, or to can't to do. And it's family and Yanni. 네 들이 니마지게 아니 배 가서 그러고 대도 된바지 제년도 러와 어떤지 쉽게 펴봤다.
So from the moment we wake up in the morning, we try and set our intention. In doing so, we must recognize what negative states of mind are, things like anger and so forth, and develop the intention to prevent these from, doing what we can to prevent these from arising. And then also setting the intention to try and develop as much as possible positive states of mind. Like, for instance, giving up ill will towards others, cultivating things like loving kindness and compassion, and the determination to be free. So we think that may I use this day to cultivate the positive and reduce the negative, prevent them from arising, to make this day meaningful. So from the very moment we wake up in the morning, we set our intention to spend the day like this. What it? And if you're having particular problems with somebody at the workplace or somebody that you have regular contact with, and you can also set your intention to think that today I'm going to be as careful as I can be. I'm going to do the best that I can not to become angry and not to get feel envious towards such and such a person. So that we think that that I'm going to try and be as respectful as possible to this person. So if you have a particular problem area, then set your make sure that you incorporate that into the intention that you set. Why might this be? Well, when we consider these words that we work with, we must remember that the main practice is that of great compassion. The assumption here is that our emphasis is on developing great compassion.
Understand? Great compassion is that never
Yeah.
What the panic I can make Somalia. Go are Mato GP, and Raze, Petankel go, Pematakel Magona, then you Chamborama. These are you champion your Chevia, and Pemato Totea, and again, to never Janaya, Park, Kisha, to do. Never matter what the Jan, Pematon.
Great compassion does not make distinctions in the sense of having biases. There are no biases in great compassion. Or if someone had a bias, then they might think that, oh, I'm going to try, for the people who help me and are good to me, then I'll try and develop compassion for them, but not for the rest. If we have this attitude whereby we have these biases or make these types of distinctions, we cannot develop great compassion. So when we set our intention in the morning, we set our intention to develop this type of compassion that is directed towards all beings, whether they act harmfully towards us or whether they help us towards all beings without exception, doing the best that we can to help alleviate their suffering. The best. The best of all positive states of mind is great compassion. The best of all positive minds is the mind of enlightenment.
Okay? But the day is those Jenny, I should get on the Tempata to get some more. Yeah, to move in a lie or some Teddy. Then I do to get me a say, or she has taken together. That's what Jenny, those gone down and you go. Cut to Alani Majona. Tarama, Tossing Yen is so much on Tempatana, and Jiggle, each with Pelatana, that's all the check payment do you? One yen, and when it's on the Temple.
Setting our intention in the morning is very, very important. I mean, Geshe feels as if he's actually talked about this, even joked about it in the past. Right? When you first wake up in the morning, if you can, it's great. If you can then sit up and you sit up in a cross-legged position, for instance, and in that posture, set your intention. But even if you're not able to do this, if, for instance, you don't really feel like getting up, you kind of want to lie down for a little bit longer, there's nothing to say that you can't set your intention in in that posture either. Of course, you can, right? The point is that whether you're sitting up in a cross-legged posture or lying down still in bed, it's very important to set your intention straight away as soon as you wake up.
Understand? Or tell it. That man do pen to us at it. So get some pen back to it. Get more less.
So think.
Dan doesn't pen back there. Tanangi, Hanyasa, three new model. Diana, the 10 on the bed. Roa, I'm sure you sing in your letter. Easy chimbo in your letter, Mangawachi. And bed. Change and material paper on sugar, dollar paper on sugar, and it.
As you wake up in the morning and set your intention, then think that, as Geshe advised, and also that I'm going to do what I can to make this life, or make this day meaningful. So when you set your intention then, make sure that you include the people around you, and the people that you come into contact with. What's more is that as you think that, as you set your intention, you can set your intention for instance, any amount of time, whether it be solely this today or this lifetime or even longer. Yeah? At the very least, though, you should be trying to set your intention for the day ahead.
Understand? Or that can be so. Nijiba, that Pembade, near the Tani, I Gombito, Roa. Gombito, that Gomiate, Roa, Gomja. And these, I know so Nijina, Aniji, Sambada, Tanda di Kata, Niji Chumbo, that nearly Aniji Tonyo, Animashi to $2 of Goni, Niji Chumbo, Shamba Goni, Roa, or that is not to go to Moshe or to say, Gombito.
That's the first force, the force of one's intention. You set that as soon as you, straight away. The next intention, or excuse me, the next force, rather, is the force of familiarity. This refers to practice of gaining familiarity through meditation. Since our main practice is great compassion, then this is at this point we cultivate great compassion in meditation. Geshe has talked a lot about how to cultivate such things. For instance, we begin by developing equanimity and go through these different stages, cultivating loving kindness and great compassion and so forth in the proper sequence. So in the second force, the force of familiarity, you develop your familiarity with such things while in meditation.
Oh, yeah, meditation, also. Gombito say they have take you pull like Gomare. Embato at the Junzi, Papa Chet and Puzuchi Condo. Comly, Corolunja say it in Tamato at Gombito now. That's
not to say that the force of familiarity refers solely to meditation. That's not the case. After all, if you get into the habit of setting your intention when you wake up in the morning, pretty soon you become familiar with that. You get used to it. And hence, that could also be considered the force of familiarity. So there's nothing to say that these forces or powers have to be exclusive or contrary to one another. Actually, the word for meditation in Tibetan, is closely linked to the word for familiarity. So, unfortunately, this is something that doesn't come through in translation, but in Tibetan, when you talk about familiarity or meditation, it's implied that you're talking about a process whereby you're getting used to or acquainted with something.
Understand? Want to Shamba go and you go there. Shamba Rangi Jilia and Shamba Shen, Roa, Shombi Mipa, Nomba. And Taranaji Niji Mipa Nomba, Zuzi, Sonutani, Rangi Jil, Sejujila, and Wojuteni, Shombi Mipa Telami. And the Nomba take you to shed, Roa, then you want the Tawado, and the Tawado Demba, Sonute, Rangi Jil Shekuni. This Sejute, and the same when you're the Roni, Kaze ne to do, who's Jen Sonotani, Roa, who's Jet, Shamba Gomba, Iji Gomba, Gomba.
For instance, let's consider meditating on loving kindness and compassion. To meditate on loving kindness and compassion, we must try to develop them within ourselves. To do so, we must know what the focus of compassion, for instance, is. And we must know what its subjective aspect or the sort of feeling associated with it is. Once we work out what the focus and the aspect are, then we try to, then we cast our attention towards it. So the aspect for, the subjective aspect of compassion is the wish that all sentient beings be free of suffering. Right? Mm-hmm. So in turning our attention to that, we try to engender that sentiment. Engender the wish that sentient beings be free of suffering. And that's, of course, it's focused on sentient beings. Then having developed that within ourselves, we try to allow the mind to remain with that for as long as possible. And this process of first developing that state of mind and then allowing it to remain so that our mind may become familiar with it is meditating on compassion. Meditating on loving kindness follows the same pattern.
Understand?
Geshe has already explained this process extensively, so we should have recordings of the way to meditate or cultivate such things.
Okay, then you come to
That's the second force, the force of familiarity.
Okay,
Thirdly, we have the force of the white seed. This force of the white seed is related to the first two. We set our intention and then familiarize ourselves in accord with the intention that we set. Right? So the power of the white seed is a support for this process. Actually, body, speech, and mind, all three can be used as supports. Just to illustrate it, right, then you can use your speech by reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, or whatever, yeah, etc. Yeah. You can use whatever positive words help you to engender positive states of mind. In fact, in the mind training text known as the 7-point mind training, it says that in all activities, train in certain slogans or phrases. That is to say that you can use certain phrases or slogans or verses that help you to remember and engender these certain states of mind. Yeah? Of all, of all the different things you might recite from the Tibetan tradition, Om Mani Padme Hum is probably the easiest. So Geshe reckons that he'll explain it to us what Om Mani Padme Hum means. And given it's so easy, who knows? Maybe even you would like to recite it. Yeah.
Okay. Om basically 이게 숨이요. 이게 숨돼요. 숨돼요. Om.
The syllable Om gathers together three letters. A, U, Ma. So A, U, Ma. You see A-U-M. Sometimes Om is spelled A-U-M. That gives you an idea. The syllable Om is made up of these three letters. A, U, Ma. These three are meant to be extremely precious. Reason being that if all the qualities of Buddhas were combined into a few categories, you could boil them down to the qualities of body, speech, and mind.
이때 가르쳐라. 가르쳐야 이때 가르요. 나를 이때 가르요 봐. 그러와. 아니 리기 이때 가르요 봐. 아니 샘기 이때 가르요 봐. 나도 센체이나야. 내가 있어리 이때 연애가 돼서 뭐 부르치려 거라. 내가도 이때 사자요 말아.
You could say the same thing for us too, right? I mean, any positive or good quality that we have is either, you know, a quality of our speech or a quality of our body or a quality of our mind. I mean, of all the different qualities that we might have, they come down to one of these three, don't they?
오케이? 이제 일단 엄자 디그 만두 토자 타주 미 타주 산제그 구수투 예때 참다 이거 이게
Therefore, the syllable om is said to symbolize the final goal that we're trying to achieve. That is the state of a Buddha and the Buddha's qualities of body, speech, and mind. The syllable om symbolizes the Buddha's the qualities of a Buddha's body, speech, and mind.
오케이? 많이 있어야 되게 싫어 어디 갔다 많이 있어야 되게 싫어 참아 있어서 많이 있어야 되게 너는 담배 갔다 싫다 야 이제 달아야 거기 요사래 너도 줄잖아
야 그래
딱 가리나면 많이 있어야 되게 싫어 참아 너는 운이 좀 싫어 그러와
Then you have the two syllables money.
말해
shit.
많이 탔잖아. sorry. 줄 사야지 가서 지 가서 거로지 로무체리 딱 가서 내근 주네 제가 알아. 어때 많이 사야지 로무체리 되게 탔잖아 이제. 타 가르래 단단 가서 사야 돼. 세주군은 타 자쇼 이제 전부 아니 세그나는 타 자쇼 조지지 사야 와. 어떤지 너도나 타잖아 이제 와. 이제 엄자 구수투 예때 터제 타
So mani symbolizes method. The word mani actually means jewel, as in the sense of a precious jewel. So just as a precious jewel can be used as the means to achieve something that you want, so mani symbolizes the means by which we achieve the qualities symbolized by the syllable om. So what type of methods or techniques are we talking about here? Well, the best of all positive states of mind, great compassion. The best of all positive minds, the mind of enlightenment. These are methods through which we can achieve everything that the syllable om symbolizes. So mani symbolizes method. Whereas peme or lotus symbolizes wisdom. In particular, the wisdom that realizes emptiness.
Understand? Or tennis, 홍사야지, tennis 수주 됐잖아. 다시 니보테 야마자오 수주주. 많이 빼면 홍.
The syllable hung symbolizes the union of method and wisdom. It symbolizes the fact that that these method and wisdom ought not be divorced from one another, but need to be joined together.
Understand?
Om mani padme hum.
근데 만도 산제그 구수투스 터발라. 다시 순제그 다시 야마자와 다시 순제그 토네 아니 터발래.
In short, in order to achieve the qualities of a Buddha's body, speech, and mind, we must unite method and wisdom.
Okay? 근데 이제 디너나 양이 지금 뭐래 이거도 와. 사실 세주 야지 땅에 시킬래 이거도 와. 근데 이제 어머니 빼면 그러나 어떤 상상제.
So included within this is great compassion, isn't it? Included within this are the means through which we achieve that state. So when you recite Om Mani Padme Hum, you know it's all included within it.
근데 이제 어머니 빼면 홈 돼야 돼. 토자 아니 산지 구수투 선다. 토제 안 다시 수도 줘 봐. 그러와. 어때? 도스 땡게 여봐 있다. 대 가나 아니 먼저 세노 배우 그래서 세노 배웠던지 아니 포스티브 세주 지 같잖아요. 아니 건지차 대왔다. 아니 네이티브 세주 같잖아요. 지 만져요 그래서. 이상한 세노 봐야.
Since the Om Mani Padme Hum symbolizes both the goal that we're seeking to attain, Buddhahood, and the means through which we attain that, the union of method and wisdom, reciting it is said to increase our merit. And when we have merit, then it becomes easier for us to develop and retain positive states of mind, and easier to reduce negative states of mind, come what may. And of course, with the body you prostrate. There's all sorts of different prostrations you might do with your body. So, for instance, you could prostrate like a Tibetan, or you could prostrate like other traditions. All the different types of traditions have different ways of prostrating. All the different Buddhist traditions have different ways to prostrate. Yeah? All of these are acceptable. The point is respect. The Tibetan way of prostrating, involves putting your folded hands at 4 points on the body. So that symbolizing the different aspects of a Buddha's body, you have what's known as the Ushnisha and this coil at the forehead. So the first 2 points are sort of a symbol of, or recognition of, these 2 qualities of a Buddha's body, the Ushnisha and the coil, and then symbolizing Buddha's speech and mind. This is the way a Tibetan prostrates.
Okay.
So you put your head all the way down to the ground, right? This is meant to be a form of respect. But from time to time in the army, right, standing up straight like this is meant to be respectful. Yeah. So a different understanding of how to express respect. Yeah. According to the Tibetan, the way to express respect is by bowing. Yeah. Perhaps maybe either way is okay. Maybe it's fine to show respect like this. Oh. There's all sorts of things you might recite, correct? All sorts of different things you might recite. Point is to understand what you're doing, yeah. And then if you recite it, then it can really help support you. Does that mean that you shouldn't recite things if you don't understand them at all? No, not necessarily. Geshe often talks about the way that we accumulate negativities, right? We accumulate our negativities through our mind, through our speech, and through our body. So sometimes, for instance, you'll do something negative with your speech, and there's not necessarily anything mental that goes, that's associated with that or goes along with that. So in this case, if you were to recite some positive words or go through some recitation, this can help to purify the negativities of speech, even if you don't understand the meaning. So it's not that you should only recite it if you understand the meaning, and it's inappropriate to recite it if you don't understand it. That's not the case. The third force is the force of the white seed, and this includes essentially all virtues that you might perform.
너도는 도시 지사에 가지다야. 정말 이제 가지다야.
Our work, our means of employment itself might help sentient beings. It's possible. There's any number of things that we might do in our lives that help other beings. So that if we're able to set a good motivation for these things, and with that good motivation engage in our job, then that can become one of the white seeds referred to in the force of the white seed. So try to bring a positive motivation to everything that you do, so that your work and your other activities can help support your other the different forces.
먼저 내가 쳐야 돼. 니 내가 레페나 라타 게겐다고 다더니 지 메요라고 담으라 요아라.
요리.
니 레메요 바이다. 니 레타니 이년도 손노도야. 니 좀 손노다 뭐네 다가라래. 이나 니 좀 손노다 고야요 말. 니 고아. 니 레고아. 무슨 대도 대바치 저가라 니 고아라.
고아래.
네이다 먼저 니 된다. 제때 있나요? 그럼 디지 또 가지고 그러는 아니 담보치는 뭐는 팬바지.
Some people have the impression that even if they're a teacher or a nurse or any other beneficial, they work in any other beneficial capacity, they think that if they get a wage or salary for it, then that's all there is to it, nothing more. Well, I mean, if somebody is just thinking, I'm only in it for the money, then of course that's the extent of it, that's the limit. But there's no reason why someone has to be doing something solely for the money, is it? For instance, actually, money is necessary to have a meaningful life, isn't it? Yeah, having money and the means to support ourselves allows or helps us to lead a meaningful life. So money is necessary, right? So when you work with the thing, begin the work, then work with the immediate motivation that you have. So to think that even if you have even if an underlying motivation for you to go to work is to get money to support yourself, the immediate motivation for your work can be so that it helps others. Yeah, not just about money. If you're just doing it for the money, it just becomes a way that you pass the day, right? So I mean, you sit there and look at your clock, your watch, saying, "Oh, okay, well, when's the day over?" Right? But we don't have. There's no reason why we have to be motivated solely by money, even if money is a consideration.
Understand? Fishing sand or the Pinjana, Nissan. Mato GPJ, Nimachi, Lagat Sama, Gawaji, under Monotago.
There are certain things, professions, for instance, like fishing, that naturally have negativities associated with them. But besides these types of activities, then we can make any activity or job that we do into a virtuous one, through the power of our motivation and so forth. It's important that we try and bring our different actions into this virtuous sphere. I mean, after all, it's important that we try to make our lives meaningful, isn't it?
Okay.
We've now covered three forces, correct? The force of intention, the force of familiarity, and the force of the white seed. Now, these three are very important.
Understand?
The fourth force is known as the force of repudiation, and this is essentially to try and apply a remedy to self-cherishing. We're always trying to practice and cultivate the mind of enlightenment, aren't we? And we're trying to develop these positive states of mind and to reduce our degree of self-cherishing and increase the degree to which we cherish others. So this is, in order to do so, we must understand the drawbacks of self-cherishing. Yeah? Know what the drawbacks are, and remember be mindful of those drawbacks. And not just self-cherishing, but also things like anger and envy. So the fourth power, or force, the force of repudiation, involves recognizing the drawbacks of self-cherishing and other disturbing emotions, and remaining mindful of them.
Understand?
Essentially, repudiation is to see the faults of a thing. So does this translation, repudiation, convey that sense? Then you have the force of aspirational prayer, which refers to dedicating the roots of virtue that we have accumulated. Now, generally speaking, this takes place at the end of the day. But you can also dedicate your roots of virtue at any time. For instance, immediately upon having accumulated roots of virtue, you can stop or you can then dedicate that. Yet then, it's very important that at the very least we stop at the end of the day to dedicate our roots of virtue. So at that point, we can look back on the day. Look, from the moment I woke up and set my intention to now, what good things have I done? What roots of virtue have I accumulated? And by reflecting on and remembering these, you then dedicate them to achieving the state of consummate wisdom, compassion, and ability, that is, Buddhahood. Also dedicate them so that they become causes for the development of the mind of enlightenment where it is not developed, and the increase, so the sustaining of mind of enlightenment where it has developed, and its further increase. In other words, dedicate it so that all of these things come about. The power of aspirational prayers.
Understand?
If upon looking back at the day you find that you have made some mistakes, then feel regret for having done so, and confess it, and set a resolve to not act in the same way the following day. Geshe has explained the way to confess negativities so that the four remedial or opponent powers are complete, correct? So apply those instructions.
Last dedication,
this is a structure for a single day. Right? This is how you can structure your day. At the very beginning, you set your intention. That's not to say that you set your intention once and can't set it again. You can, of course, set it many times throughout the day. In any case, that as soon as you wake up, that's when mindfulness becomes manifest, and that's when you begin. You begin by setting your intention, and then the last aspect of the day is to dedicate one's virtues and apply this force before you go to sleep.
Okay.
If you've forgotten and you've already lied down, well, then you can still dedicate at that point, lying down, can't you? You can also try and purify your negativity through the application of the four powers, or four opponent forces, right? You can still do so lying down.
그러와.
Mm.
건지 차네. 아니 그 이제 따다다다다다다다야. 지금 좀 맞지.
If you do this regularly, after some time, you'll get used to it. So that when the time comes for these different actions, then you'll remember to do them. You'll get in the habit of it.
다 든지치기 전에 다 나서 메시지야지. 그거는 다. 네. 다 버리시면서 니나야 셔야되고요. 이거 다 든지치 강투투 안지 가서 파지야 개천.
These are the type of things we need to think about when using our daily life to make our life meaningful. So Geshe is regularly gives teachings here. So we remember these teachings, trying to integrate them and practice them as best that we can.
당연히 유튜브야 로지체가 있다. 미초르소리야 마 지혜전에 그 진을 빼자는 수자가 되만 제시자고요.
뭐래?
제가 마동이 뇨뇨 손이 시작할 가버렸죠. 이제 니에들이 제구야. 저로서 제가 좀 그렇다. 니에들이 제가
Geshe has studied these topics and therefore is speaking from a position of some familiarity with them. He's essentially explaining to us what the scriptures say about these matters. It would be very difficult for Geshe to speak from his own experience about such things. So he would just like to add that these are things that we as an audience need to do, and that he as a teacher also needs to do.
Okay? 그게 하다가 되지. 근데 ጭ부는 시에다. 넘블리 시대 연어야 맨아메. 마루스 세밀이야 시대다. 아니지. ጭ부지니 마셔야지. 그래.
And we all should do as much as we can. And let's all try to live happy lives. So that if whether the world is at peace or not, at the very least, let's work so that we can die with a peaceful and happy mind.
Okay?
To bring this about in the world is not going to be easy. But with care, we can do it with ourselves, can't we?
That's it. Okay? Is it enough? I chose not enough, then some joy and instruction later.
But if it's not enough, you can ask questions and Geshe will answer.
And then also, message
In short, these instructions that Geshe has just given, give us a framework to use, a single day to make the entire life meaningful. And these instructions come from Geshe Chekawa's text, the 7-point mind training.
Okay.
No questions? Are you hungry? The time is up? Yeah? Let's go. You're only allowed to speak for 1 hour, he was told. It was Eddie that was enforcing this rule. Okay, well, look, good. An hour has been well used up, and so we'll finish there.